What's up, guys? KW Stout, healthmindpower.com. In this video, I'm talking to my fellow hardgainers out there. These are the people who eat whatever they want but can't gain any weight. They swear that they eat more than everyone else they know, yet they still can't gain weight, can't put on any muscle. They just don't have the appetite to eat enough food to grow. Okay, that's really what the problem is, but they just don't quite realize that yet. So if you're a hard gainer, or a hard gainer like I used to think I was for many years, then you've probably experienced the feeling of stuffing your face, trying to eat more and more food to the point of feeling nauseous and sick, and still not seeing that much growth on the scale or just in your appearance overall. And it can be incredibly frustrating, especially whenever you see people who, what you think, it seems like they're eating a lot less and yet they're building all this muscle, and you think, well, why isn't that happening for me? Well, okay, the deal is that being a hard gainer is kind of just a marketing gimmick nickname that's been created to sell you stuff. Okay, there's no such thing as a hard gainer. Some people need to eat a little more, some people need to eat a little less, and that's it. That's all it comes down to. And when it comes to bodybuilding, one of the limiting factors long term in terms of how much you will grow is going to be your appetite. Okay, your appetite is going to ultimately dictate how much you can eat, and how much you can eat is going to dictate how much you'll grow. No matter if you try to use steroids or any of this other stuff, you're still going to need food. Food's the one thing that's always, the one variable that always has to be on point. So the first thing I would say is if you think you're a hard gainer and you think you eat a lot, you probably don't. Most people who think they're hard gainers, they just don't realize that they have such a lower appetite than other people, that what feels like eating a lot to them and eating anything they want isn't really that much. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about my background as a hard gainer. So when I first started lifting weights in high school, I was 6'2", I weighed 145 pounds, and I ate whatever I wanted, and I ate as much as I could. And by the time I graduated high school, I graduated at weighing 165 pounds at 6'2", which is pretty damn skinny. Okay, and I did that by eating a huge lunch that would fill me up, but I would be so full that I would feel sick in the next class. And then I would always go get a big fast food meal for dinner number one every night. And then I would have dinner with my family for dinner number two every night, and then have some snacks at night too. And I'd usually start my day with something really small. I didn't eat breakfast a whole lot in high school. I like to just have a granola bar or something. And that was one of the keys to why I wasn't growing. Okay, so I thought because I'm eating more than most people around me that I was just eating so much that I didn't need to eat anymore. I thought, well, I can't possibly fit any more in, so why aren't I growing? Well, a big part of it is that I just wasn't eating near enough. It doesn't really matter what you think is enough. It matters what really is enough. And I wasn't tracking my calories. So I didn't truly know how much I was eating every day. So the only way you can know if you're eating enough is that you've got to start tracking your calories, and you just keep upping your calories, your caloric intake, until you start growing, basically. And that's what you need to eat to grow. So for me, when I was younger, I needed about 4,000 to 5,000 calories to really grow, to really see significant growth. And that's a lot of food. And skipping breakfast, having a lunch that was kind of healthy, which would mean I didn't eat a lot of calorically dense stuff for lunch, that already is half my day is gone. Half of my potential eating time is gone. The one big fast food meal and dinner at night was just not enough. Okay, so this is really pretty much how it goes for all hard gainers. Okay, they have periods of the day where they pig out and eat a lot of food, and they kind of just, it's like their memory thinks that they've been doing that all day from sun up to sundown, and it's just not true. And the thing is, with like all the big bodybuilders that you want to look like, they do eat from sun up to sundown a lot of food, and you just don't quite realize how much food it really takes. So I didn't actually realize how much I needed to eat, or even really give a lot of thought to my actual calories until I was in college. Okay, so in high school I was just reading all the bullshit bodybuilding magazines. I tried some weight gainer products that I got from GNC, which it was just absolutely terrible and disgusting. And I was just naive, and I just really, it's just weird how you have this. It's weird how, okay, people who tend to struggle to gain weight have this idea in their head that they eat way more than they do, whereas people who struggle to lose weight, they tend to believe in their head that they eat so much less than they really do. So, one thing you can do if you're trying to gain weight is look at what overweight people do, and then consider what should they not do. Okay, what are the things we recommend overweight people not do, so that way they don't keep gaining weight. And then you look at those and think, oh, maybe I should actually do some of those things that they're not supposed to do, because that's going to help me grow. But I'll get to that in a minute. I didn't really first start. I didn't do a true bulk until college. Okay, so I found some old school bodybuilding program with a caloric meal plan and caloric outline advised in there, and that's when I realized, oh shit, okay, I have to eat a lot. It really takes a lot of food to grow, and that was the first time that I had gotten over 200 pounds. I got close to 200 pounds that first one. And then it was whenever I did GOMAD later after college, which is a gallon of milk a day, that I got up to 208 from that. But then again, both of these bulks, I put on a lot of fat, because at the time I was focused more on the calories than on the macros. I wasn't tracking my macros. I was just trying to hit a certain caloric thing, and really I was dirty bulking. And for people who struggle to gain weight, dirty bulking is, when you're young, is not the worst thing to do for your first bulk. Sometimes I think it helps to just get a little bit of experience of eating a lot of food, and to kind of be realistic about how much food you really need to eat. I personally wouldn't do a dirty bulk again, and I don't advise clients do that. I like to get people lean first and then have them bulk slowly. But if you're young and you don't let it get too out of control, and you're just getting started in this, and dirty bulking is not the worst way to do it, because you will gain weight, and it's better that than not eating enough. So it wasn't until after college that I finally figured out how to gain weight without getting fat, without dirty bulking. I also just learned some tricks to make it easier to bulk, because I realized that I always thought of myself as having a really high appetite, and I realized not really as much as I thought. I thought I did, but then whenever you are with someone who does have a high appetite, you realize, oh shit, they can really put down some food. And I can put down some food, but there's levels, So what I've done ever since then is I've tracked my macros and just upped the calories slightly, and gained weight more slowly. And I found that there's no such thing as being a hard gainer, or there's no such thing as not being able to gain weight. If you're not gaining weight, you're just not eating enough. That's it. Unless you have some kind of medical condition, which is extremely rare, and you would definitely know, because you would be shriveled up, and you would be in the hospital, because if your body wasn't able to digest food properly, and for you to even build muscle, you wouldn't be able to build any tissues in your body. Okay, so unless you are experiencing some insane condition like that, then that's not you. You're just not eating enough. Okay, so let me tell you a few tricks about how I was able to just completely change from not being able to put on weight at all to be able to put on weight quickly anytime I want, to the point where now I just that's not even a consideration. Now I never am trying to put on weight that quickly, because I don't want to get fat, basically. But so if you think back, okay, what do people who don't want to gain weight, what should they not do? Well, for one thing, they shouldn't be snacking all the time, right? Because when you snack, it increases your appetite. So one thing you can do if you're trying to gain weight what I used to do, and I see this a lot with hard gainers, is you don't realize that you don't really stop to think about your own behavior, but you eat these huge meals and you don't realize those meals keep you full for so long that you don't actually eat very many total meals throughout the day, because you are the type of person who would rather just eat a huge meal and then go do other stuff and then eat maybe 1 to 3 huge or 2 to 3 huge meals a day. And if the meals are big enough, then that can work. But if they're not, then it's actually better to break them down into smaller meals more often, and to never let yourself feel completely full from each meal, because that's going to keep your appetite going. It's actually going to make your appetite stronger. And over the course of a day, those smaller meals will add up to way more calories than those less frequent huge meals. So that's one thing you can do. And that works very well, and it works quickly. So another thing you can do, focus on eating calorically dense food. Okay, don't eat like a rabbit. If you're having trouble growing, you need to focus on foods that have more calories. Things like whole eggs, ground beef, guacamole, chicken. It's not all about fat, but rice. Rice is a good amount of rice, or a good amount of carbs in a small amount of rice. Okay, as compared to like potatoes, where they're a little bit less calorically dense. Pasta is great. So you want to focus on things that have more calories for how much space they take up in your stomach, okay? Because if your appetite is your limiting factor, then you need to get as many calories in that you can eat comfortably, because we're not trying to be miserable, and we're not trying to make ourselves throw up. There's just no reason to be miserable about this. It doesn't have to go that way. Okay, so whenever I was bulking in college, that very first time I realized, oh man, I need to eat 4,000 or 5,000 calories. I felt so sick that it was so, every meal, I had to just sit there for a little bit and just sit there and kind of, think and talk myself through it, because I'd throw up. I felt like throwing up. And it just wasn't fun, it was very unpleasant. So another thing is to just keep healthy snacks on hand, okay? Try to have a healthy snack in between each meal. This is something that if you're dieting, or if you don't want to gain weight, that obviously you would never want to do this. It would just be so detrimental, because snacking just rapidly increases your appetite. Not only that, all those little snack calories really add up throughout the day. So, little snacks like a protein shake, bag of nuts, whatever, throughout the day really help. They really help build up your appetite, and they also help you get those extra calories. And then the last thing you can do, well, there's a lot of other things you can do, but the last one I'm recommending here would be to do short, intense cardio sessions throughout the day. So you can do stuff like sprints, or jump rope, different things like that. Those cardio in general will really boost your appetite. So people who are trying to gain weight, they tend to avoid cardio because they think it's going to make them lose weight. And it's just not that simple. It's not. That's why when you go to the gym and you look at all those people on the elliptical machines, they're still fat month after month, okay? Cardio is not the only way to lose weight, and cardio is not that powerful for losing weight. So, in fact, personally, if I do intense cardio, I get so much more hungry from it that if I allow myself to, I can gain so much more weight with cardio in play as opposed to cardio not being in play. Now, I personally like to do cardio year-round just for health, but that's besides the point here. So to wrap this up, there's no magic diet, there's no magic program, there's no magic cure for weight gainers, for hard gainers, and you're not even a hard gainer to begin with, okay? If you're struggling to gain weight, you're not eating enough food. Now, maybe you're someone who just needs to eat more calories than the average person, and maybe you're not. Maybe you just don't, maybe you have an extremely low appetite, or maybe you're just not eating near as much as you think. Now, there's only one way to figure all this stuff out, okay? You have to start tracking your calories. So you can use an app like MyFitnessPal. Track your calories for a week, okay? Weigh yourself at the beginning of the week. Weigh yourself at the end of the week. Just eat your food as normal. Don't, now that you're recording yourself, don't change your behavior, because you're not going to learn anything. So do that for a week. See how many calories you're going to end up eating on average each day, and look at how much you change on the scale. Okay, so let's say you're eating 2,000 calories a day and you didn't gain any weight. Okay, so next week bump it up to 2,100 calories. Then the week after, and if say you don't gain any weight that next week, bump it up to 2,200 calories. Okay, do that until you started to gain a little weight. Now you don't want to get carried away. Like what's going to happen is, as a hard gainer, is that first time you experience this, once you really understand it and you start to see the number on the scale change, it gets out of hand really quickly. You start doing the dirty bulk thing. Next thing you know, you're like Vince Garza. Basically, you're just extremely fat, way more fat than muscle, and you just can't ever let it go. So you don't want to be like that. The key is tracking your macros and trying to grow slowly and focus on gaining, half a pound to a pound a week, if that. And that's pretty good. That's pretty good growth. Okay, this 2 pounds a week, it's mostly fat. If you're gaining 2 pounds a week, it's mostly fat. Okay, unless you're using a lot of androgens or something. So, but if you're not sure how to do any of this stuff, you don't know anything about tracking your macros, you don't know what MyFitnessPal is or any of that, go down below into the link. There's a link for something called the HMP Diet Guide. It's completely free. I've gone into great detail. I mean, you can't screw it up. Okay, I made it for dummies basically. So it's going to show you how to set up your macros, how to calculate how many calories you need, how to use MyFitnessPal to track all of your food and how to monitor what you're eating. It's very easy. It's very simple. Like I said, it's completely free. You can have it in your inbox here in 30 seconds. So also there's a full article for this topic below if you want to read, if you want to go into more detail about all of this. And that's it for this video. So be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.